Hi guys, it's me Ty here, and today I'm going to talk about how to get heavy equipment unstuck that gets stuck in like soft conditions and stuff like that. And me, I've been around construction equipment all my life, so I've about seen it all. So with your big excavators, like their wheel motors on them, they're not very strong. So when you get into really tough conditions, lots of times they just won't even turn the tracks. And what we do usually with them is we'll come up behind them with a dozer and we will push the blade up against both tracks at the same time. And then once we get up against it, we will go ahead and we will lift up the dozer blade, and that actually turns the tracks for that machine to propel it forward. And then those machines, they will have trouble steering. So like if I want that excavator to get turned to the left, I will back up my dozer and I will just push against the right hand track to go and start camming it over. And once I get in the direction I want to go, I'll back up. Then I will go ahead and I'll push up against the tracks again and lift up. And the same with like this when you're steering them like that too. You push up against them and lift up to turn that track. And then if you want it to turn left, you'll back up and you will go ahead and you will push against the excavator's left-hand track and lift up. And then as for dozers, that is something that I know it's intimidating. Like we've had D11s get stuck, and the worst that I've ever seen a D11 stuck in my life was it went out into soft conditions and it had rained over a weekend, and nobody knew it was that muddy. Well, it pretty much fell into quicksand down there, and we were afraid of losing all the other equipment trying to retrieve this. So what we ended up doing is we sent seven scrapers, a whole fleet of them, to go ahead and they would dump their dirt right in front there, and then we'd take another D11 dozer and start building a bridge out there. And that's what those scrapers kept doing. And actually, once it started to get up further out there, we would have the scraper drive out on that little bridge, and he would dump his load, and we would have a second scraper come up behind him, and with his bale, he would hook onto the hook on the back of that scraper, and he would pull him backwards out of there. And that D11 would just keep pushing that dirt out there until we got out to that dozer. And then we went ahead and we hauled in an excavator and we dug. We had the operator that was in the stuck dozer down there. We had him lift up his ripper blade all the way up, which was still stuck in the mud. And we went ahead and we took the excavator and we dug underneath of the ripper and behind each of the tracks. And then after we dug out all the dirt behind there, we made a ramp. We just kind of ramped it up with the excavator, and we hook a tow rope onto there. Then we hook the D11 on, and then we hook another tow rope, and we hook all seven of those scrapers in line. And that was the only way that we got that D11 out of there. And it was a stressful day. It must have, I bet it took at least 6 to 8 hours to retrieve that D11 dozer out of there. Um, and like so that's the worst I've ever seen them stuck. And then also if you're like with big front loading shovels, I'm trying to think how many yards they are. They're probably about 60 cubic yards. With those, their tracks are really weak on them too when they get in soft conditions. And we'll hook up or we'll take two dozers and we'll have them push on the back of the tracks. Each of them is pushing on a track and then lifting up their dozer blade to turn it. And then we'll also hook a tow rope on at the front of the car body on that big front loading shovel and have him pulling. And that's how we've done it. And as for a dragline, if you ever have a dragline that falls into a pit, I'm talking the big draglines that in their bucket they could hold four Suburbans. If one of them goes in the pit, what you gotta do is you gotta dig out the dirt from. They have a big tub, is what they rotate on. You gotta dig out that dirt from underneath that tub, and that slowly that dragline will start camming over, and you want to get him just so he's perfectly level, and then you gotta make a nice gradual ramp, and that drag line will actually walk up the ramp himself because there's no way that you could ever physically pull a machine that big. It has to go under its own power. And speaking of drag lines, what else on there? Um, oh, a D11 actually can turn a drag line. They use a lot of electricity, and if they don't, I don't know, it costs quite a bit to fire them up. And a drag line can actually push against the shoes of a dragline or a big D11 dozer can, and it can actually turn a dragline. It can spin it all the way around. So yeah, I've covered the excavators to get them stuck. Covered the dozers if you get them stuck. Big front-loading electric shovels, and I guess your old steam shovels if you were into something like that. Uh, the all the drag lines, and I guess it could be the small little drag lines too, if you're digging out stock dams. Most people have converted to big excavators for that. And now that I think about it, trucks, where I'll talk about them, the big end up trucks. It could be the giant Tonka style trucks, or it could be the little 6x6 ones that the contractors have. Um, and I don't know if you'd want to do it with your normal street legal dump trucks, with like the Detroit engines and the Kiats. But sometimes when they get soft conditions, they go to dump their load and they can't move. All they're doing is spinning their tires, and they have a whole bunch of that dirt laying up against the box, and they can't get away. And normally, you would let down your box, and that'll kind of propel you. But sometimes they have so much dirt behind them that they can't get away from the dumping phase. So what we'll do is we'll take a dozer and come parallel to it and push all the dirt away, and then the dirt will start. It creates a void. The dirt will start coming out of the box, and then we'll come in behind them with the dozer, and the dozer will just push up against the back of the box and push that truck down or truck out of there. And usually after we push the dirt away, he can let down his truck box a certain amount, and he only wants to let it down enough that the dozer can get behind it and push up against the box, that you do not damage the box on that truck. Motor graders, when we get them stuck, we never push on the ripper blade. I've never seen that happen before. We always get a tow rope, hook it onto a hook on the front, and we pull it out of there. Big front end loaders, big payloaders. I've never seen them ever pushed on the back end either. We'll either hook a tow rope on the back and use a couple scrapers hooked together to pull them out. And then as for the front, I haven't really seen tow hooks on the big ones out there. So I've never seen us pull them out like that. I guess there probably would be a tow hook maybe on a lot of the front differentials. I guess you could lift up his loader and you could hook onto that. But as for the bucket, I haven't really seen anything on the outsides there. And then your big track dozers, for their tow hooks, most of them will have a tow hook welded on each side of the blade, and then they're pretty strong there. And let's see, big off-road lowboy tractors. I'm not talking the street legal ones, you guys. With those, lots of them will have a push block on the back, and you can actually push on the lowboy trailer to push them out. And then we would have tow balls on the front where you could hook a tow rope and pull them out as well. And let's see, what other pieces of equipment are there out there? So we got the motor graders, and okay, dozers or scrapers. Okay, so if they have the bale on the front, which all the ones that I've ever worked with, we've always spent the extra money to have a bale on the front so that the scrapers could push pull with each other, so you didn't need a dozer. But we have had it where you could like take a smaller dozer with his ripper, and he could put it down, and we could hook. Well, actually, what we did, I don't remember us ever hooking on the top of the dozer blade, but sometimes we would have them lay down their bale on their scraper, and they would lift up their bowl really high so that it would make the bale really low, and then we could back up with a dozer, and we could actually drop the ripper into the bale and then pull them out of there. But it is a son of a gun getting your dozer ripper out of that bale. Sometimes you'll have to drag them all over the place, especially, and I think it's usually like we'll go over like a hump or like a hill or whatever, and then once we drop over, then usually we can pop up our dozer blade high enough that they can pop their bale out of there. So, um, what else have we done on that stuff? Can't think of anything else right now. But just yeah, you probably won't find these techniques on YouTube because most contractors they try to. I don't know. It's kind of like that old thing, older generation before YouTube. People didn't want to share their knowledge because then you could steal their job away from you, or them. You know, because they want to be able to charge whatever they want. So I guess if you guys are ever in this situation as contractors or working for a boss, um, this is how I've done it, and it's worked great for me all these years. So, all right, if you guys like this money saving content, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll keep kicking out these videos. And this channel is very diverse, but it all comes down to saving you guys money so you guys have a better life. So, I talk about repairing stuff, repairing your house, repairing vehicles, um, uh, traveling Asia on a budget. Like I was living on less than $600 over here in Cambodia. Um, going back to college at an older age. I went back in my 30s for my bachelor's degree. Um, so it's definitely possible, you guys. And I really went into depth on that kind of stuff too. So if you guys like this content, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll just keep kicking them out. All right, bye.